So I already announced it, and it goes. I cannot do that without asking you and ask you. I know, but I would like you to tell our audience why this title. I mean, we are seeing with you an artist who is obviously loving photography. You are always dealing with photography, and you do this since a very long time already. Can you tell a little bit about the title and then maybe also on the history of that exhibition?
Thank you, Doris. Before answering you, I cannot but thank you. I'm really honored to be here. I think you've given me and this exhibition a great chance to present itself in such a beautiful space in Düsseldorf, particularly, which has a very specific relationship to photography. Against Photography is a poem of love to photography. It cannot but be that. What I love about the title is that you don't get it. Is this someone who is so much interested in photography that he is positioning himself against photography, or is there something else that is escaping the audience? So Against Photography as a term carries many interpretations, sometimes contradicting interpretations. I put my hand against the wall, that means I lean onto the wall. I show the black against the white, that means I want to see it properly. So Against Photography is also positioning the world against photography, not in contradiction, but in explanation. I think Against Photography wants to understand photography, wants to deconstruct photography, wants to make photography as well. And it is, it carries both. And I like the idea of the misinterpretation. I like the idea of the misreading of the title, because I am also, I do belong to a larger definition of photography. I would like people to understand photography in its capital P and not in its small p. So photography is not the way it has been explained to us in photography books. Photography is for me larger than this. If you want me to expand, I can expand.
Would you also say that it's maybe photography in an extended sense? So what we can see in the exhibition is that you are someone who's dealing a lot also with the materiality of the photography, the becoming coming in other states.
The materiality and immateriality of photography is an element that's reached me when I was reflecting on photographic objects of clear material, and I thought I could not disregard the material and consider only the image and what the image is describing, or what the image is, or how it is the mise en scène, or how it is lit. So I'm really less interested in what photography classes teach. I'm interested in the nature of photography and how photographs live after they are produced. And from the moment you announce this interest, then you are interested in the whole path. If an image was produced in 1948, I'm interested in whatever happened to it from 1948 until today. So it's not this fragment of a second that when the image was produced that interests me. In other terms, I don't want to lock the photograph and its interpretation into the time it was produced, but I want to see how it lives with people, with institutions, how it was transferred from hand to hand, how the multiple lives, what I call the multiple lives of an object, which can happen to a picture, but can happen to any object that we use every day, that changes hands and maybe changes uses.
I mean, you do have in the Arab Image Foundation a lot of photos which were, so to say, anonymous. We do not know the photographers, and but there are also others. And there, I mean, in specific, two persons, two photographers. This photographer Van Leo, who had a studio in Cairo, and the other one is Hashem El Madani, who is living in your birth city, Saida, and there he had since the 50s, he has run his studio, Cherished. I would like to ask you, when you have met them, or one of them, how could you speak with them on photography? What was their input, or could they follow in a way your thoughts about a more extended photography, or did they say, I mean, he is looking at old photographs which were destroyed, let's throw him away, so finito?
It's hard to... there are many factors that are at play when I meet an older photographer of Van Leeuw's age or of Madani's age. Both of them are not alive anymore. Both of them I met at a late age. So for them, I'm a young person who is curious in what they do. And they know that they have lived so long, and few people ask them questions, detailed questions about what they do. So in a way, they like it, and this is why they give me their time, and this is why they open their archive to me. In a way, they are giving me something and a piece of knowledge, knowing that it will stay, knowing that I would do something probably with it. If they understand my work, frankly, I doubt.
For example, we see in the exhibition a series of photographs which were taken from the archive of Madani, and there we see men, younger men, elder men, people walking on a bridge. And this is all coming from his practice.
Exactly.
And please tell a little what you did about that. Because, I mean, what will he say? What would Madani say if he sees these conceptual work of this conceptual
He sees them as, he always tells me, in the film he tells me, like you've seen those pictures of men reclining on rocks and reclining on the beach. He was explaining to me how he took those photographs, and he was telling me, and yes, and you have collected each one coming from a different year, belonging to a different day, belonging to a different client, and he was telling me that, and you put them all together in one room to explain them, and he gets that. He gets that. But he doesn't get is that his photographs, the tools that are surrounding him, his studio, its configuration, the vitrines surrounding him, what is in them intended for sale and what is in them intended for decoration, the photographs on his walls, for me they are all one work, including the stories that he is giving me and including himself. One day, by the way, I asked a 3D company to come capture him sitting on his desk in his entourage. Yeah. So I have this file. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know if ever I could do something with this. But it's...
this is weird. You have him as a 3D...
Yeah, and you can play with the camera and see him from the back and see him from front and see him from top. Yeah. So for me, this whole project is an excavation that was ongoing until the day he died. Whether I take 36 pictures following a certain theme or because they were taken in a specific location, and I will explain why this specific series is in this exhibition, or whether I do a film, anything that I would do in that studio belongs to this excavation, and it's hard to isolate one out and put it in a different configuration. One needs to follow the transformation of the Madani project from 1999 until the making of this film in order to see the links or the path that it's trying to send the viewer to. So back to 36, the 36 pictures of people crossing the bridge. These are typical photographs that Madani would take in areas of promenade in the city. And when, in the early 50s, the city decided to build the first concrete bridge that was built over a small river where the promenade area was taking place, people thought it was like the background that could convey best their belonging to modern times. This is my interpretation. So everyone, all of a sudden, instead of people were used to taking pictures, strolling in the gardens in the city, along the train track, in muddy paths, in muddy areas. And all of a sudden, when the bridge was built, they started walking there and asked the photographer to take pictures of them.
And then the bridge became a kind of a catwalk, even.
Yeah.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
a stage, and he, as a photographer, took advantage of this.
Exactly.
And photographed
like
them.
the catwalk, yeah.
But at the end, it's you who brings this in this seriality, which is a pure contemporary art praxis, I would say. He would not do this.
No. He never showed his work.
Would you consider this photographer as an artist?
He is a photographer. In my work, he is the photographer, the main figure of my work. I'm the artist because I take all the decisions, and I always say I start working where he stopped. And I construct on his body of work another body of work that takes it in a different direction. Yeah.
You will see in the exhibition there is a film from 2015, which is also really a homage, and it's on that figure of that photographer Hashem El-Madani, who died several months ago, only this year, and who, he conducted a life in Saida. And I think it was also interesting for you just to know, what does a photographer in that time on such a place, what is his role in a city?
A photographer's place is a meeting place first. It's a meeting place, and it's an extension of the street in a positive way and in a negative way. A woman in Lebanon would not go alone to a photographer in the 50s. She would take with her a friend or a parent or someone, because while waiting there, you don't know what someone could actually say a bad word or hurt her feeling in a way. A photographer's place is a place where thugs go.
There was even one woman who appeared and undressed.
Yes, this is
in front of his
every
camera,
photographer has a story of a naked person. Because I think it's. I do believe that we desire to see ourselves naked too. We don't dare to do it, but some do, and in analog times, there is always a trace that stays hidden somewhere. And the film about Nadia's picture in Van Leeuwen's picture capitalizes on this story and uses it as a key to go and understand who this photographer is and what is this social dynamic that produced this picture. Did I lose the thread? No, I answered you.
Yeah, I think, some of you, a lot of you are standing, so maybe we will not extend our talk too much. But I would like to ask a last question about how, this is a too big question, I know, but if there is something you could give our audience an idea about how you look back and in the future of the Arab Image Foundation.
Sorry, the first one, how?
How you look back on that development, or how back on the Arab Image Foundation, and where are you now? And I always found it very interesting. You were saying the Arab Image Foundation has to be a lively archive. It must not become a cemetery of photographs, but it should be something which is going on and on and on. What can you see in the future for that archive?
I always like to repeat, when I read Yoko Ogawa's L'Annulaire, this beautiful book about an archive of people's favorite objects, it's a beautiful novel that takes place in an archive where
what's his name again?
L'annulaire in French, which is this finger, or this finger. No, I think it's this finger. The second one. Yeah. This is a novel that takes place in an archive that is managed by this doctor. She calls him the doctor, who receives items from people, items that people want to preserve for eternity. And for him, preserving is not simply putting them in cold storage, but trying to think of ways to activate them or to reenact them in different ways, not necessarily in that by freezing them. For example, he's interested in preserving a piece of music that was written by a lover to a woman who brought him this partition, wanting to preserve it after the collapse of the relationship. And he kept it, and he kept it until somewhere in the end of the text, and where he decides to give it to an old lady who is about to die and who played piano and who never had a relationship in her life. And he describes how this moment of that old woman playing that partition intended from a lover to another lover in a relationship that doesn't exist anymore, that for him this has satisfied the essence of preservation. So preservation is not take this paper and put it somewhere in the fridge. It's about reenacting it and allowing it a life in a creative way. So preservation without creativity is a symmetry. And from that moment and on, I started looking at the Arab Image Foundation in a very different way. It's not anymore an archive of photographs that you choose thematically. I mean, any curator can come to the Arab Image Foundation and make hundreds of selections and produce hundreds of exhibitions. Does this mean that the archive is reenacted or performed? Maybe yes, maybe no. But the idea is to open that to a world that is not restricted to photography. One, it's important to displace images out. This is why most of my work on photographs is in video also. It involves another type of orchestration, other tools that are not bound to photographic histories, tools like what shape of frame, what color of frame. I mean, I've done this a lot, like in 36 images of Madani. That work belongs to 2007, and this is an earlier period that is still active in me. But I'm in another zone, let's say, today. I'm more interested in looking at things that the photographer never thought of while producing an image, or things that happen to an image, transactions that the image have undergone that have nothing to do with its original production. So I'm interested in the life after production. And with this perspective, you realize that a path opens up for the life of images, for the life of photographs and objects that can tell you much more about the present times, much more about our history, our relationship to objects, our relationships to iconography, indeed, our relationship to preservation, but not restricting it to simple how did you light the picture, how did you organize
It's also changed. I mean,
yeah. So I'm also not less interested in description. I'm more interested in the photograph as a result of a transaction. I like to say this to tease sometimes the photography world. You know these booths where you go in, you put a coin, and you press, and you have a picture. This is a transaction. This is a typical example of a photograph as a result of transaction. and what happened to it later. You take it, someone stamps it, you put it on your passport. Each step of those is another transaction, and I'm interested in the record or the register of all these transactions. So a photograph that has lived 70 years is able to give you much more transactions than a photograph that has been taken a year ago.
Okay, thank you. I think we stop here. Wir machen hier einen Stopp. Wir werden das Gespräch fortsetzen. I can say that we will continue our talk. Am 6. Dezember gibt es ein Künstlergespräch zwischen uns beiden. Da werden wir sicherlich noch genauer auf bestimmte Fragen, die uns die Arbeit von Akram Zaatari aufgibt, eingehen. Dieser Aspekt der Transaktion, wie mit Bildern, mit Fotos Transaktionen passieren, den finde ich ist vielleicht ein ganz wichtiger Aspekt, wenn man sich die Ausstellung anschaut. Und vielleicht noch einen anderen Aspekt möchte ich hinzufügen, was Akram Zaatari gesagt hat. Ein Bild nach 20 Jahren sieht ganz anders aus, als es vor 20 Jahren ausgesehen hat. Ganz klar, die Zeiten haben sich geändert, das Bild selbst hat sich geändert. Und wenn wir das auch im Hinblick auf unseren Umgang mit Digitalfotos einfach nur mal so als Überlegung nehmen, was wird in 20 Jahren mit den vielen Myriaden von Digitalfotos sein, das ist vielleicht so genau die Spanne, in der sich dieses Nachdenken über Zeitlichkeit, Transaktionen aus dem Geist der Arab Image Foundation beziehen lässt. Vielen Dank für Ihr Interesse, viel Spaß mit der Ausstellung und thank you very much, Akram, for that talk.
Thank you, Doris. Thank you very much.
Have a nice evening. Thank you.